Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the mechanics section of the suggestions passed to developers for December of 2024. There's a bunch of different things here, enduring confrontation, RP changes, obviously some decals which are around, and a few other things as well. So, in this video, we'll go through them all and the posts that have been put in. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. Let's get started. The first is a post by TheEuropeanCanadian, who goes through his opinions when it comes to aerialistic and enduring confrontation. The current version of aerialistic is overplayed, dull, and quite frankly boring. The gameplay loop is exactly the same across almost every battle rating, rank, and aircraft, with little to no variation. However, in my opinion, there is a simple solution: RRBEC. While enduring confrontation exists in the standard matchmaker, it is quite poorly executed and doesn't allow for almost anything that makes EC so unique. Matches are limited to 25 minutes and basically just serve as larger maps for normal realistic. While this is quite beneficial, it suffers due to many seeing the mode as inefficient since it takes a greater amount of time to reach the fight. Yes, this is the core problem with realistic. It is the most efficient way to get research points and silver lions, and it also only has one core fight. By the way, I would like to point out it is not the most efficient way of getting those things. Anyway, let's continue. The basic RRB match boils down to taking off, flying left in jet, or climbing in props, meeting the enemy team in the middle, and having a 5-minute scuffle for who will 90% of the time win the match. If you're lucky to survive, you get to either return to the base or hunt down the last few stragglers, but if you're not, you get sent back to the hangar to requeue and repeat the process all over again. There's no variety here. You rarely get the chance to actually go against someone one-on-one. It's just a massive furball with no requirements for skill or positioning, and if you're stock or playing anything other than a dedicated fighter, you're screwed. The excitement of the mode burns you out so quickly that it's never really satisfying to get kills. That is definitely an opinion. Now enter enduring confrontation. This mode holds a lot of unused potential that could really benefit the game. The largest is a complete reimagining of the basic gameplay loop. Instead of just flying left or gaining altitude and waiting to meet people in the middle of the map, you are able to do so much more. You can run attack missions, hunt down interceptors, fly high stakes bomber runs, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. People naturally spread out, and that means you actually have to hunt down your enemies instead of just expecting to meet them in the same exact place. I doubt I'm alone in thinking that this game is at its best when it's just you and one other person in a fight for each other's life, and EC makes almost every dogfight into that, but this also pushes teamwork since flying with a wingman would massively improve your chances of surviving. There's also more PvE potential than what's already in the game. CAS as well as bombing could be greatly expanded to give future and already existing aircraft more weapons such as anti-radiation, anti-ship, and even cruise missiles. Bombers could make a comeback in some form by making escort missions. Fighters and interceptors AI could be improved to allow for more diverse combat. Staged objectives could be introduced where the objective changes as you move through it, such as a new system for bombing airfields that would require you to take out anti-aircraft and other stuff before being able to attack the airfield first, or similarly having to take down a carrier strike group before being able to take down the carrier. I understand there are people who do enjoy the standard aerialistic who would hate a mode like this, but there's also a large group who would like something new, and I think a separate proper EC mode would be the perfect way to do it. The issue I have with these posts is pretty much the same as always. All of this information sounds wonderful, it sounds great, hopefully people can build it. We have a War Thunder CDK. Putting all these ideas on paper and making them work together is much harder than it may seem. So I hope somebody takes inspiration from this post and does these things, because just a paragraph of outlining what you want to see is not good enough. It needs a lot more thought, and implementation will take a lot longer. But as I said, let's go for it. I look forward to whoever builds this map, so therefore we can see an actual proper reimagining instead of words on a page. There is another Weeb Decal from our resident Canadian Weeb, and it is the 4th Anti-Tank Helicopter Unit Kisarazu Sisters Decal. In 2011, to commemorate the 4th Anti-Tank Helicopter Squadron's 19th anniversary, one of the squadron's AH-1Ss was given distinctive markings with the original character Ao Kisazu, which was created by the squadron personnel. Following that year, illustrator Takashi Fujisawa got involved and over the next 2 years created the other 3 sisters and their distinctive marks. There were a total of 4 sisters, and at some point we will finally run out of these decals, so therefore we won't keep getting them passed to the developers. Hopefully that is soon, since we've had about 20 of these by now. The next post is why waste RP on a maxed out vehicle when it can go towards the tree instead. There was a thought made earlier when they were going through the RP gains throughout the battles. What if you max a vehicle, instead of it just pooling RP, that RP gets applied to the research tree as well? What they've noticed is that if you earn 2k RP with one vehicle, you get 2k RP towards the research tree, and 2k towards that vehicle for a total of 4k earned. But what if instead of that 2k RP going to waste on a maxed vehicle, you get all 4k of it towards the tree, giving a boost to research and giving more of an emphasis on maxing out vehicles rather than just moving on to the next vehicle the moment you get it. There is a feeling that this paired with the already present fact that vehicles can only research other vehicles within a certain range above and below itself gives the suggestion an already present balancing, as once you research enough vehicles, you have to move on to the higher BR tiered vehicles if you want to progress further down the tree. Unless it's a premium, but yes. Not only is this thought that this would make the community happy, which of course it would, because it would double the amount of RP that you would get, there is also a belief this would also influence more people to max out lower BR/tiered vehicles, as it would give more RP than moving on to the next vehicle in the research tree. No, in my opinion, what would actually happen is people would find the meta vehicle of that area, that bracket or that rank, and then they would just play that over and over and over again, because you've effectively made every standard tech tree vehicle a premium vehicle with this change. So that would mean that premium vehicles would actually get double the amount as well, because they also get modification research. But let's just say that doesn't happen. So people would just play, let's say, the meta rank 3 vehicle and nothing else, because you wouldn't get the bonuses that you get from doing the modifications now would be kind of worthless compared to you just making double the RP with this one specific vehicle over and over again. So it would actually limit the matchmaker quite aggressively. But at the same time, people would see a bigger number, so they would be happy, so why not? The next suggestion is displaying BR ranges of a match in the match. So currently there is no direct way of seeing what the range of battle ratings in a match are. This is inconvenient because there is no way of telling if you've been up-tiered or down-tiered outside of a handful of indirect and unreliable methods. In ground realistic battles, you can memorize spawn points to tell if you have been up-tiered or down-tiered. In other modes, you must memorize the battle ratings of other vehicles in order to tell what the battle rating range of the match is. Both of these methods are indirect and not always reliable, plus they are unfriendly to new or casual players who do not wish to memorize the battle ratings of many vehicles just to tell if they have been down-tiered. It can be useful to know the BR range of a match because it might inform what you spawn. For example, you might spawn a heavy tank instead of a light one if you are down-tiered or vice versa. Also, a BR indicator can help players know what enemies they might be facing. This is why the suggestion is to actually show it in the top left corner of the map, therefore you can see the BR range. Now, this sounds good, and I know a lot of people want this. There is a unfortunate problem, though. In ground, first of all, you can just tell anyway, but the issue is once people see that BR range, and once they see they're at the bottom of that BR range, they are just going to leave the match because they don't want to do that, and they don't want to play. And this will happen in droves, and therefore people will take crew locks and then just go play another nation. So if you can find a way of fixing that part, if you can find a way of forcing people to play, then this can work. But unfortunately right now, that isn't the case. The next one is adding aircraft exterior lights. So the suggestion is basically just to add ones to the vehicles themselves. You generally have 4 categories of lights. You have positioning, navigation lights, taxiing lights and landing lights, anti-collision lights as well, which are on the vehicles. So the idea would be just to add these to the vehicles, so therefore you have a visual signal to the position and also to orientate the vehicle to the runway or the taxiway, which would be a lot easier to play. So obviously not all military aircraft are equipped with lights, but usually they have at least some. Their addition would allow more realism to the game and would be a great improvement for night battles and also simulator battles. The last one is a dog. Bamsey, or Bams. This was the highest decorated dog of the Norwegian Navy, surprisingly. Bams was the heroic mascot of the Free Norwegian Forces during the Second World War. He was also the highest decorated dog of Norway. He was born in 1937 in Oslo and was a short time after his birth bought by the Norwegian captain Erling Hafto, which at the time was the captain of the Norwegian whaler, which went by the name Thorod. Already from an early age, he took Bams with him on the sea while fishing and doing other duties. When the World War broke out in 1939, this whaler Thorod was requisitioned by the Navy and renamed the HNMOMS Thorod, and armed with weapons and cannons for its service as a patrol vessel. Erling Hafto remained the captain of Thorod, and they were stationed close to Hammerfest. A while after this, Bams had been enrolled as a part of the crew on board of it, officially with the title military mascot. When Germany attacked Norway on the 9th of April 1940, and after a small happenings and conflicts, Thorod had fled over to the United Kingdom, where the vessel was shortly after rebuilt, rearmed as a minesweeper with additional cannons and other weapons and machine guns, and was stationed in the small harbour town Montrose. One of the many things Bams did on board the Thorod was to boost the morale of the crew, and for this he became really popular amongst the local civilian population in the small town. The men on board had even made Bams his own special helmet, which he would be wearing in combat, and usually stand on the front of the gun tower. There were many photos taken of the dog, which were designed to show kind of the patriotic message of Norway and also the propaganda to keep people fighting. Bams became well known for some of his deeds, which one of them were to drag ashore and save the life of a sailor which had managed to fall overboard, and the other where a fight broke out and one man of the crew of the Thorod was being attacked with a knife. Bams had pushed the attacker overboard and into the sea. He was also said to have broken up fights among the crew by jumping up and putting his paws on their shoulders, forcing them down onto the ground until they had calmed down. He was also given other tasks, such as to round up the crew and return them to the vessel in time for duties, something which he was good at. He also had been given his own bus pass or permit, which they had attached to his collar, as he would by himself travel by the bus to Broughty Ferry Road down to Dundee, and also to collect men from their favourite pub, the Bowdigger Bear, and return them to their vessel. And if he did not find any of the crew there, he would all by himself travel back to the base at the harbour. On the 22nd of July in 1944, Bamsey met his fate. On the dock of Montrose, he suffered a cardiac arrest and died, and he was buried with a full military honours, and hundreds of servicemen and civilians, both of the Norwegian Navy and the Allied, from Dundee and Montrose, that attended his funeral. He was in later years also given a statue, and every 10 years he has been honoured by the Royal Norwegian Navy with a commemorative ceremony. So there you go. There is a fun dog, which would be a pretty fun profile picture to have. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.